Right, well, some big news from the continent. France has inscribed the guaranteed right to abortion in its constitution today.
It's the first country in 50 years to do this, with many saying it sends a powerful message on International Women's Day.
But does everyone agree? Have abortion rights perhaps gone too far?
Well, joining us now in the studio is Madeline Page, spokesperson for the Right to Life, and Stella Tsantekidou, the former Labour aide and political commentator. Right, let's start with you, Madeline. What's your case?
I think it's funny, being on International Women's Day, I think that actually if we look at the numbers of abortions in this country, we have over 200,000 abortions a year, and over half of those will be of women, will be of baby girls. And I don't like this rhetoric that abortion is a women's right. I think it's a great tragedy when a woman feels like she has to have an abortion. There are a lot of other extenuating circumstances that I think we need to be looking at, and we shouldn't be forgetting the humanity of the unborn child.
Should we celebrate that France has guaranteed abortion as a constitutional right?
Yes, we should celebrate it. It depends, I guess, where you're coming from. We should note that abortion was already legal in France. It's not like this is a new thing. They haven't changed anything in the matter that women access abortion. All they have done is they have enshrined it as a constitutional right, which basically means that in the future it will be a lot harder if someone wanted to ban abortion in France to do that. I doubt this is going to happen anyway. It's a similar situation in the UK. It's a similar situation in the UK in that you can access abortion, but right now it is criminalized. It's still a criminal offense to have an abortion. I'm not sure I agree with Madeline in that it has anything to do with women's rights, the fact that a lot of fetuses which are aborted were female, because I don't think that in the UK it is a problem that women who are pregnant would go and have an abortion if they find out that the fetus is a female, as opposed to if it were a male.
Which does happen in some countries in the world. There's a lot of allegations about what happened under China's evil one-child policy, for instance. But Madeline, this isn't really a controversial issue in the UK in the way that it is in the United States. Most opinion polls say that Britain has it about right, the limit that is set on. What do you disagree with? Clearly you disagree with the current limit that is set on. Why?
Actually, 70% of women want to see a lowering of our abortion time limits. So at 22 weeks, babies are surviving. There's currently an amendment that's going through Parliament to lower our abortion law to 22 weeks. And I've spoken with lots of families who've had children born at that stage. And at the moment, we have abortion essentially for any reason up to 24 weeks. So that 2-week difference means that we have children who are capable of surviving, and in one room of a hospital we may have doctors fighting to try and save that baby's life, and then in another room we have a doctor taking the life of one of those children whose mother is 22
Some people might
pregnant.
ask, if it was moved from 24 to 22, you would probably then say, why not 20? Why not 18? Why not 16? This is just about chipping away at that.
You could make that argument, but we need to look at the survival rates. A child is capable of living at 22 weeks. And actually the NHS says that at 12 weeks in the womb, a baby is fully formed and has everything that they need. We just don't have the medical technology at 12 weeks to save that baby's life, but we do at 22 weeks. So our law is very extreme, and when we look at other countries across the EU, our law is double theirs. The median across the EU is 12 weeks for abortion, and we have it till 24.
One thing that a lot of conservatives in America don't like is how abortion has been framed as healthcare. Do you think that it's right to frame abortion as healthcare?
I think it is quite right that it is healthcare. And one thing I would like to add to what Madeline just said is that in the UK, we have some of the strictest laws in the world in terms of criminalising abortion, in that you could be in prison for life. And that is harsher than the law in Syria, than the law in South Sudan. And you mentioned the US, Emily. It's harsher than the laws in Texas, which would be a surprise to a lot of British people, particularly when you consider the fact that 1 in 3 women are going to have an abortion at some point in their lives. So if you had an
extremely late-term abortion, you don't think a woman should ever go to prison for that?
In the situation where a woman has an extreme late-term abortion, there is usually other circumstances that are forcing her to do that, and it will have been a decision that she has taken with her doctor. are you asking me whether I want to see women personally? Whether I want to see women...
I don't think a doctor would give a late-term abortion. It wouldn't be a criminal matter in that case. I think
exactly
if it was either illegally or with some, non-compliant practice.
And the vast majority of the public, if they saw what kind of situation this usually happens, I think they would agree that these women should not be sent to prison. I think the British public has been shocked at some of the cases that we saw last year, where you had women, mothers, who were criminalized, who were sent to prison, mothers with kids, because they were either confused about when their pregnancy started, or because there were other extenuating circumstances, and they didn't receive any support, they didn't receive any care. And this is where my problem is with having abortion being a criminal offence, which is what it is right now in the UK, make no mistake about that. It's that a lot of women will be scared to go to the doctor because they will think that they are doing something wrong, or they will think that...
But there has to be a limit, surely.
For sure there needs to be a limit, but why are we assuming that women want to have an abortion at 7 or 8 months? No woman wants to do that. No woman, even if a woman is as pro-choice as it gets, as in favour, even if a woman thinks that abortion is nothing to think about it, everyone should have access to it, I highly doubt that a woman with a belly this big would say, yes, you know what, I can feel the baby.
It has happened.
And it has happened. There are cases of women who have had abortions that late. And I think it's wrong to say that the British public are shocked by the circumstances that would surround something. I think actually they are, and the fact that women can be criminalised, I think actually what I've seen is the British public have been shocked at the fact that a woman would have an abortion so late. That Carla Foster is the case that often people refer to. Her baby Lily was nearly 8 months along in gestation. That is a fully viable, survivable baby. There are so many people in this country who have been born at 8 months or even earlier, and that's why we're saying at 22 weeks babies are surviving, and we need to be giving them that right to life.
Madeline, what do you make of Stella's point there that yes, we have abortion legal in the UK up to 24 weeks, but thereafter, we have some of the strictest restrictions anywhere in the world. It's almost like we've got this sort of game of two halves, this black and white policy.
It's not true that we have the strictest restrictions. In practice, very, very, very few women. It's only been recently that there have been these cases of criminalisation, which is as a result of pills by post, which was advocated for by the abortion clinics who wanted to be able to post pills during COVID out to women. That has now been made permanent, which means that a woman can have an abortion outside of a medical setting. She can make a phone call to a medical professional. She can lie about her gestation, which is what happened in the case of Carla Foster, and is very dangerous to the woman. The reason why it's set at 10 weeks is because of implications for the woman having an abortion at home outside of that clinical setting.
Stella, just lastly, do you think abortion by post is a good thing? Because a lot of people say it's fantastic for women's rights. You don't have to go into the doctor's surgery and go through that side of things.
One, what I don't like about this conversation is that it assumes, about this argument, is that it assumes that women want to do something illegal. It assumes that women will turn to this abortion by post as their first choice, which is not the case at all. I think it's something like 90% of abortions take place before the pregnancy is 10 weeks, which is quite early. So this is not the situation we are talking about. So you are talking about limiting the rights of thousands of women, of the vast majority of women who have abortions when it is legal and acceptable by the public and by our culture and our medical establishment, for a tiny minority, literally a handful of women who are misguided into abusing this right.
Extreme cases.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much.
There's so many more questions we could have asked, but thank you so much for coming in. We've run up to the break, but much more to come on the
Yes, thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Stella. You were fantastic. Thank you.